Well, it's a Super Sunday indeed in a very wet and rainy and windy London, but the perfect atmosphere, Janusz, for another London derby. Chelsea hosting Arsenal, a high-flying Arsenal, and that's exactly how it ended. The Gunners just edging Chelsea 1-0. A lot of trouble, I suppose. Everyone's panicking now for Chelsea. So why don't we start there? Because Arsenal, pretty much of the same. They have been impressive all season long. But Chelsea, Janusz, a lot of eyes on Graham Potter, wondering what his best 11 is, what his style is going to be at Chelsea, what his best formation is. What was just not clicking today?
Well, I'll get there, but I almost feel like we're taking away from Arsenal. I mean, we have to address. They're top of the table. So, I mean, in order to get to Chelsea and their issues, I think we have to give credit to Arsenal because that was a complete domination in every aspect. Just edging it, I get what you mean because it's 1-0, and perhaps that is an issue still for Arsenal, although they've solved many of them over the last season and this season as well. This is an Arsenal team that dominated them in every department. I was quickly going to look up at the statistics. Of course, we come right after the game, so I didn't have a chance. But I'd be shocked if there's one department that Chelsea were better at. I'm talking about the positive statistics in this game. So they stayed in the game because Gabriel Jesus had a header that he should have put away in the first half, and a couple other half chances here and there. Yes, Arsenal has ways to go in that department as well. In terms of Chelsea, well, where do we start? First, I thought it was positive they won with 4 in the back, which is an issue for Chelsea and Graham Potter because there's a feeling that Thiago Silva is much better with 2 center backs alongside of him, right? I thought he did okay. He wasn't the worst on the pitch. That's for sure. He did fine. Where Chelsea failed is in the midfield because when we talk about complete domination of Arsenal, that's the part of the pitch where they dominate. We saw a diamond shape, but not one leader, not one player that could just kind of take the game and take it to Arsenal. And that was probably the most disappointing for me because Jorginho was sitting at the bottom of that. He didn't have the best of games, and Loftus-Cheek on one side with Mason Mount and Kai Havertz, who continues to struggle. And look, the finality of it is that Graham Potter can fix the lack of scoring. And we saw Aubameyang, which was 8 touches in the game, 0 shots, and 3 accurate passes in the entire game. So the issues that Thomas Tuchel has had with scoring continue with Graham Potter, and it doesn't seem like they're able to fix it.
Well, the last time Chelsea actually won a game in the league was last month, on the 16th of October. Here we are in November, albeit just starting November, but it's the first time in a long time that they've lost back-to-back matches. And we know some may still say they're reeling from that. I don't know if you want to call it a shock loss to Brighton. Props to Graham Potter for all the work he did there. But now, it's been draws, it's been losses. What does Graham Potter address first, do you think? Is it just the scoring thing that's letting them down the most?
Well, I think he's got to lay out a blueprint for them, right? And he's talked about that a little bit. I think for some reason we expect Chelsea to do it overnight, as he says, and it's not true. Arsenal, for as an example, right? I mean, how many times have we fired Mikel Arteta over the last 2 years, right? I mean, Arsenal are all in on the way they play and on Mikel Arteta. You could clearly see it. Sometimes you have to prove it, which they do. Top of the table, 5 London derbies, 5 wins, a massive win away at Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, because every so often there's always that little bit of a test, right? And Arsenal, for Chelsea, I think they're in the same boat as Arsenal was a couple years ago. Maybe some just don't want to admit it, right? Because we still seem to think, well, Abramovich was there, he would have fired everybody, and they pick it right back up wherever they were. Well, that's not going to happen here. It's going to be a process, and I think we need to understand. Now, look, I mean, I don't want to say that Graham Potter is not good enough because I don't know that. He hasn't been there long, but I just think that Chelsea fans need to get used to the fact that this is going to take a while, and you could clearly see that now. They've got to do some business again in January and the summer.
Well, I suppose Chelsea definitely back to the drawing board. As for Arsenal, they have been looking like the real deal. As you said, we have to give them all the respect, and Mikel Arteta all the respect. There's still a World Cup coming off. I'm sure he's going to be hoping all his players will come back fit so that they could go to the second part of the season as strong as possible. There's always the jokes that Arsenal fly and then at the second half of the season, they go down. But as you're seeing it, they do look the real deal, right? Should Manchester City be losing a bit more sleep thinking about this Arsenal?
Yeah, I think, Pep Guardiola, knowing Mikel Arteta very well, is going to respect him. Why wouldn't he? I still think Manchester City are favorites. I always say, Arsenal, in our world, if we want to create it, Arsenal could win every game and Manchester City could win every game. And in the end, what would separate them? And that would be the games against each other. Remember, the first one, they still have to play Manchester City twice. And Manchester City are likely to win them both because they are a better team. But on the night, you just never know. But looking overall at the two squads, Arsenal still has ways to go, and they know it.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.